Hi everyone, I'm Nicole xstitch. Today is February 4th, 2024, and this is Flosstube number 21. As of today, I have stitched 243,976 stitches since I started stitching in 2020, and since my last video in January, I have stitched around 6,034 stitches. So today is my first normal floss tube of 2024. Last video was a finish and whip parade from 2023. And it also this is the time of year that marks my first floss tube anniversary. I started making floss tube videos in January, around like mid-January of 2023. So it has been over a year since I started making floss tube videos. And to celebrate that, I want to do a little bit of a giveaway at the end of the video today, so stay tuned for that. But before that, let's get to all of the normal floss tube stuff. So I, mostly just yesterday, have been on a fully finishing mission. I've built up a lot of finished pieces that I just haven't had time to finish, like fully finish into frames, and I also just didn't have the right frames for a long time. But I ended up with like several Michael's rewards. If you're not part of the Michael's rewards program, you should be. I think I had like $15 in rewards somehow, that I was able to use to help me buy a bunch of frames to use to finish a bunch of pieces that I have. And so yesterday I spent a lot of time putting those all into the frames, and today I'm going to show them to you. So the first thing I wanted to address, which is kind of in the realm of framing things, is on my last video somebody asked me how do I actually frame my mini art series patterns, which is a great question because I always show them in these little frames. They're these 2x3 frames from Michael's. You buy them in a pack of 4 and they come in a bunch of different colors. I typically get the white and black ones, but there's also like silver, gold, and a couple of wood tones. And I finished these pretty simply. So if you look at the back, you can kind of tell that my fabric is really just tucked in to the frame, and then I put the back on, and that's all. So after I'm done stitching these, I cut the fabric with like pretty small margins. Maybe I can take this out and show you. And then I kind of align the cross stitch in the frame, and I pop the back in, and then I kind of scoot it from side to side with those extra bits of fabric. So it's all kind of deformed now, but you can see I cut my margins pretty small. And this is the only way that I ever plan to finish these pieces, so I'm not too concerned about having small margins. So I just take this, I literally just like stick it into the frame. Obviously this one's easy because it's like already bent into shape. So I would kind of like line it up, and if it's like crooked at all, I'd kind of try to fix that a little. You could like pull on the sides, these extra bits of fabric on the back, and adjust it. Then I pop the back in to the best of my ability. I'm realizing this is maybe not the best way to show you how I do this, but hopefully it gets the idea across, and then you can kind of figure out what works for you. So I'll pop the back in, take another look at the front, do any adjusting that might be needed just by kind of like scooching around the fabric on the back. And then once it's set where I like it, I just push down these little tabs, and I just leave this extra little bit of fabric in the back. And that's how I finish them. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I don't like lace them on foam core or anything like that. I kind of just like, this is my mindset for framing. It's what's the simplest thing I can do that will look good enough. And for these ones, that is sufficient for me. If I added foam core, then it would be too thick to put the back in, and I don't know, it'd just be complicated. So most of the time what I'm literally doing to frame my pieces is just kind of like fitting them into the frames. Sometimes I will cut out like a white or black piece of paper depending on the color of the fabric to fit behind it so that like you don't see the backboard, which is normally like a brownish color, through the fabric, especially if it's like white. It kind of ruins the color of the fabric and it makes the holes in the fabric a lot more obvious. So I'll slip that in there and then I kind of try to fit the back on and see if I can get away with that without, you know, lacing or doing anything. And that works for several pieces. Sometimes it doesn't, but it is a good first shot for most things for me. Okay, so on to the actual fully finishes. The first one is actually, ooh, nope, there we go. The first one is right there. I have switched out what used to be my banana leaf cross stitch above my desk for my elegant lace piece. Please enjoy Nugget being silly in the back. We just got this like day bed so that we can have guests over, and he really likes it. He's a big fan of yellow knitted blankets. So I just finished this elegant lace piece into a white frame. Let me just grab it off the wall for you. So here's what that looks like in this 12 by 12 white frame. It's a little bit crooked, but it's close enough for me for what it is right now. I would have to put in a lot more work to get it, you know, perfectly aligned. And if it bothers me in the future, I might, you know, take it out of the frame and try to see if I can get it in there a little bit more perfectly. But for now, I really like how this looks. I love how it looks by my desk. The banana leaf has been relocated to downstairs in our living room. And I'm excited to finally have this in a fully finished state. And that pattern was Elegant Lace by Works by ABC. Okay, the next piece, this is like the first time I finished something in a not black or white frame. This is Yellow Beetle. Gosh, I can't remember who the designer is. I'm a big fan of this pattern, so it's in this kind of like, I don't know, deep but also bright dark blue frame. Just a small finish. Probably will go up on one of these shelves when I'm done with this video, but it fits really well in this frame, so I'm pretty happy about how that looks. I also finished 2 more of my butterflies fully finished. So this is one that I had showed you as a finished piece in the past. I finished it in a hoop so that it can go on my slowly growing butterfly wall. And then this is a butterfly that I just finished and then immediately fully finished. So this was what I was stitching all through January. This is from Box and Fox. I really love how this turned out. It's a pretty big piece. I guess since we're kind of doing finishes, I might as well give you the stats on it since I haven't fully talked about this piece before. So it was 4,709 stitches, so pretty big. It's finished in a 6-inch hoop because I stitched it 1/1 full cross on 25 count even weave Lugana. So I really like how the size that it ended up being. I love the detail. I love the colors. I really, really like how this one turned out. Then we have Mushroom Food from Noctiflora Designs. Just had to find a little frame for this one. I removed the words from the pattern because I don't love words on my patterns, but I love how this one turned out. This will probably also go on one of these shelves or on one of our bookshelves downstairs. That's just a little small finish. And then I have these 2, which I've been awaiting good framing for a while. These are 2 patterns from Lola Crow Cross Stitch. They are like the mini patterns that are released after the mystery sales. So this was from like the Haunted Library mystery sale, and then this one was from the Greenhouse of Oddities. And they're just like mini pieces that kind of represent the idea of those two projects. And so I thought about putting these in the like same frames. Like I had two of these and I thought about putting them both in that. But they're probably not going to be displayed right next to each other anyway, so I decided it was okay that they were finished differently. And you can see how lazy I am with framing. I literally tucked a piece of fabric in here. I didn't feel like trimming off the excess. It wasn't too much, so I just kind of like pinned the corners. And you can still move this, so it'll be able to stand up just fine. And nobody needs to know. So I'm excited about these two. These might go on the bookshelves actually, because I think they're a good size for a bookshelf. I have a lot of things to show you and not unlimited space to stack them. Okay, this next one is Unexpected Visitors by Night Spirit Studios. Love this piece so much. I stitched it 1/1 on 28 count natural linen, so it's really tiny and cute. I love how like dainty it came out because I did it so small. And I just wanted like a simple black frame to finish it in. It's not really like standard frame size, like obviously these margins are wider than the side margins, but I think it looks good in this frame for now. It's not something that I've never spent money on custom framing to date, and one day I might, but I just can't justify it for, you know, smaller pieces most of the time because I understand that it's quite expensive. So I mostly just make do with what I can find for affordable prices, which is just whatever frames you can find in the framing section of Michael's. And this is another one where I was super lazy and just pinned the back together. So Unexpected Visitors from Night Spirit Studios. Ooh, this next one I found a really fun frame for, and I feel like it fits so well. So this pattern, of course, there's cat hair everywhere. This is, gosh, it's really challenging me to try to remember the names of things. This is Enchanted Forest, I think 3. Sorry for all the glare. Some of these have glass on them, some of them don't. There's the camera. So yeah, this is Enchanted Forest 3 from Una Buena Pieza. And I found this frame that's like curved, which I thought was just like so ridiculously perfect for this piece. Like it just fits it so well. So I really like this one. I wasn't sure if I was going to be excited to like put this up in my house because I don't really like normally do like, I don't know how to explain. Normally I fall more towards the like realism side of cross stitch, I think. Or if I'm doing something kind of cartoony, it's not typically like spooky or Halloweeny. And so I wasn't sure about this one, but I think the frame really did it. Also, I've been showing it to you with big glare in it the whole time, sorry. So I'm a big fan of how this turned out, and I definitely need to find a spot for it. Now, what I'm realizing as I'm showing you all of these is that I have a lot of things that need somewhere to be displayed, and not a lot of room left to display them all. So it's going to be an ongoing endeavor to decide what to put up where, and kind of like maybe rotating some things out sometimes. Luckily, we did just like put 2 new bookshelves up downstairs in our living room, so we have some really nice space to kind of display things. And I think, you know, I have put a couple cross stitches down there already, and I think a couple of these will also go down there, and I think they'll look really nice. And kind of, we have kind of themed shelves, like either around color or like kind of grouping certain types of objects together. So some of these will go there, and the dream is to also, we have like a huge empty wall behind our dining table right now. The dream is to put up some like floating shelves kind of like this behind the dining table too, which I think could also be a nice place to display some cross stitches, some plants, some books, things like that. So just finding like unique ways to decorate walls that aren't necessarily just big pieces of art, but also finding ways to put in the smaller things that we have. I've also been thinking for a long time about the idea of figuring out how to do a gallery wall with these pieces. I just feel like because the theme is like they're not all of a similar theme necessarily, that it might just look kind of messy in the end, especially with like different colors of frames and all of that. So maybe one day, but I think it will take a lot of thought to make it look right, and you also have to have like the right number of pieces to fill a space properly. So that's kind of in the back of my mind. We have, a big staircase with a big empty wall, and I feel like that's big gallery wall space. But I'm not sure if it's like the best stuff to put there or not. Okay, then we have my temperature thal. So this is temperatures from wherever I was living for the first 25 years of my life. So up until last July. This is another piece where I'm like, I was considering if I should get it like custom framed because it doesn't, fit a normal frame size, in the sense that like the margins are not the same on all sides. But I decided, I had this in a different frame previously, and I don't even know if I showed it because I didn't really like it. It was like a fake wood, like darker wood frame. And I think the contrast with the white fabric just made it like very obvious that the margins were very different on the different sides. So I thought that by putting it in a white frame, I might be able to kind of downplay that. And I like how it looks a lot better. I think the focus is much more on the actual stitching this way, and the frame doesn't detract from that, but it also makes it look nice and finished. So I have no idea where I'm going to put this. It's like a very abstract piece of art, but I really do like it. Maybe I can find a place for it, like somewhere around my desk. I'm not sure yet. And then last, but certainly not least, I love this one. Oh my gosh, so much cat hair. Which is fitting for this one because this is my Starry Night cat, which I just finished in January. And the original pattern had a gray cat in it. But as you can see, I have done a hopefully faithful recreation of Nugget in this cross stitch, which is so nice of him to be here to model for us, to show you that I tried my best. So I found this frame also at Michael's, and it's a really unique frame. I think I haven't seen a lot of frames like it, and it has a black mat, and I think the inside area fits this piece pretty well, because it is kind of a funny shape. It's like a rectangle, but then it's not. I really love how this looks. I think this deserves its like own place on like a small strip of wall. So I've got to find a place for that. But that is my recreation, or my slight recharting of Starry Night by Lola Crow cross stitch to look like Nugget. Okay, so that is all my new fully finishes, which was a lot. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, actually, technically 10, because I had finished this mini art piece a while ago. 10 new framed pieces, which is crazy. So I'm very jazzed to have those all done, and I'm very excited to now find places to put them. All right, what is next? What are my current whips? So I have 3 whips right now, and I am realizing that one of them is not in this room, so I will be right back. All right, so 3 whips. The first one that I want to show you is Mushrooms at Night by Harp Seal Designs. There we go. I was going to say Harbor Seal because, harbor seals. Anyway, the pattern looks like this. I have decided that I don't want to stitch all of the greenery and the stars and the moon. Um, they felt like they didn't match to me. So like the mushrooms seemed like decently realistic, but then the greenery and the stars felt like they were just kind of more cartoonish. Um, which I think is fine. It's a gorgeous piece, but I was like, I'll just do a little less stitching and I'll just do the mushrooms. So this is what mine looks like so far. Finished the tops of the mushrooms, working on the stems and the underneath. I lost one of my, I could not find my 3799, this like dark gray color that I need to finish the underneath of this mushroom. It was literally just sitting in a box of threads that I had taken out, and I had looked in that box twice and couldn't find it. I don't know what happened. I just kept looking right past it. So that is Mushrooms at Night. That piece has, I'm estimating that with the greenery and everything removed, it's about 1,261 stitches. And I've done 722, so I'm a bit over halfway, almost 2/3 of the way. And I'm just doing it on 18 count black 8 in the called for DMC. Honestly, when I pulled the flosses for this, I was like, those colors are crazy. Like, I was like, that dark red with the bright, like, this is like a wine red, and this is DMC 666, which is like the brightest red. And I thought it was crazy, but it actually is coming together decently well, in my opinion. I thought about recharting the colors and decided not to, because I was like, I'll just give it the benefit of the doubt and see how it comes out, and I think it's working, so I'm okay with that so far. The next whip I have to show you, I started, oh my gosh. Oh, also for Mushrooms at Night, I started that on January 30th. So I kind of just started it, and I've only worked on it for 3 days so far, and I've gotten over halfway, so that's nice. Next whip. This is my New Year, New Start. It is a pattern. Let me show you the pattern first before, spoiler alert. It is a pattern called Yosemite Valley from Vika Space. He was an embroidery artist. And I decided to make this my New Year, New Start, partially because it was called on my whip go board to get 33% of the way through it. I'm doing this in the called for DMC, but it's satin stitch, not cross stitch. So it's more of like an embroidery style piece. So you can see I've traced the pattern on the whole thing. And then I've started filling in with these really long satin stitches or running stitches, whatever you want. Maybe not running stitches, but I just call them satin stitches. I really like how it's turning out so far. Hold it up next to the finished piece. I think the colors are coming across pretty well. Yeah. Did I get 33% of the way done this month? Probably not. It's really hard to tell with beads like this, right? Because there's no like stitch count. I could count like number of spaces, like number of, what do you call them? Like sections, but they're all super different sizes, which means they take way different amounts of time to do. I could do like general area, like by area, I don't think this is 1/3 of the way filled, but close enough for now. I decided, I think, to do this as like a goal met but not on time for my whip go board. Like that's how I marked off the square. Though I don't know that I necessarily intend to work on it more before it's called again, so the plan is to finish it this year. We'll see what happens. It took me, I think I would have gotten farther on this, but it took me a really long time to get started with it. This cotton canvas is like a new fabric for me for this type of stitching, and I was trying to figure out coverage and like where are the holes, because the weave, which you may or may not be able to see, kind of has like 2 threads they're interwoven like a lot differently than like an even weave would be. My only gripe with this so far is that in some places you can kind of see these like funny lines where the stitches don't lay perfectly flat, which it bothers me a little bit. But then when you're not like staring at it super close, it's not that obvious. So I'm trying to just let it go and take it for what it is. And then my last whip, this is the saddest start ever because I started it yesterday, and then right after I started it, I madly framed a bajillion things. But this is a piece that has been called for my whip go for February, that I had intended to start this year, and so now that it was called, I needed to start it. It is Anzac from Long Dog Samplers. So this is my first ever Long Dog. I have looked at the Long Dog like patterns, like the catalog of patterns several times, and always thought like these are so beautiful, but I don't know if they're for me. Yeah, like I didn't know if they were really my style per se. This one stood out to me because I loved how there were so many little animals hidden in it, and I also, in the top right corner, there's an echidna, and I love echidnas. So I thought, well, maybe if I was gonna do a Long Dog sampler, I would do this one. And then, sometime last year I thought that, and then I was watching Cam the Stitcher, who has really pioneered for us this new idea of the most amazing tone-on-tone floss and fabric picks. And I thought, well, maybe if I do a very tone-on-tone kind of subtle look, then the pattern, it matters, but it almost matters a little bit less. I don't know if that makes sense. Because it's like more subtle, I think you can like get away with the pattern being less of your style because it's more about like the like subtlety of the stitching. I feel like I'm doing a really bad job of explaining what I mean by that. The other thing I thought was if I do this tone on tone, I can pick like the most beautiful colors in the world, and then that will be the like focus of the piece, will be how gorgeous the colors are and less about the pattern. And I felt like this pattern was absolutely screaming to be done in like an earthy green. And I love green. It's like one of my favorite colors. So I was like, okay, I think if I do it like tone on tone in really pretty earthy greens, and like this is my favorite Long Dog pattern that I've ever seen, then I will really enjoy how it looks. And that's what I did. So for Christmas, upon my request, my parents bought me a beautiful cut of Cedar River linen in the color Arboreal. And this is what it looks like. It's so pretty. It's like just the most beautiful greenish, brownish. It's got a little bit of modeling. I know it's kind of hard to see without me holding something behind it because of the light. Yeah, just a really pretty color. And it kind of changes with the light. Like the color changes with the light. And so I got this fabric and I thought, now I have to find the perfect floss for it. And I figured since the whole thing was going to be done in one color, I might as well like kind of explore a new world of threads. I didn't really want to do it in DMC because I do most of my stuff in DMC, and I was like, this one should be special. So I thought about doing like an overdyed cotton, something with a bit of variegation, but in the green family. And then I thought, well, the fabric already has some modeling on it, and while you definitely can find like good combinations of like modeled fabric and variegated floss that will work together, I didn't want it to be too noisy. And I also didn't want it to end up looking stripy because I do tend to stitch in like a you know, back and forth typewriter type situation. And when you do that with variegated flosses, they tend to kind of stripe, which is fine. That looks really great for some things. I didn't want it in this piece. So I went down to my local-ish needle workshop. It's down in Issaquah, which is like a 30 to 40-minute drive from me. I went there yesterday morning and I was on a mission. I was like, I'm gonna buy new fabrics that I need and I'm gonna find the perfect floss for this project. The problem with finding the perfect floss for this project is that it's got like 30,000 stitches in it, so I need a lot of the floss, which realistically means that I'm gonna have to wait to order a hank of whatever I find, so that, you know, there's not dye-lock problems or anything like that. So I was looking at like Gloriana silks, I think, and there were some really pretty ones that had like a little bit of modeling, but not too much. Unfortunately, apparently it's been taking like 6 months or more for these like orders to come into the shop from, I can't remember if it was Gloriana or not, so don't quote me on that, but it would have taken a really long time for me to get the right amount of floss to work on this. So instead I was looking at some other options, and by that time I had decided, I was like, I want something that's like either got very subtle variegation. I want it to be light green, like I want it to be lighter than the fabric so that the contrast is like lighter floss, darker fabric, because I didn't want to go even darker green than what this already is. And then, so I knew I was looking for that, either solid or very slight variegation. And I had decided that I wanted to use a silk because I've never stitched with silk before. And it felt like a good time to splurge on that. So that's how I narrowed it down. And I ended up looking at MPI silks, and I found this color, which is like a kind of avocado-y, like greenish, like brownish, greenish, earthy tone. And here's a floss toss for you. Here's what it looks like on this fabric. So you can see that it's like, it's lighter. Let me put this thing behind it again. I'm making this complicated for myself. It is lighter than the fabric, but it's pretty tone on tone. And I started stitching a teeny tiny bit up in that corner, which is my sad, sad start. So I'm not 100% on this yet. Let me cover that up for you. So that's my little tiny start. And I think you can see the contrast enough. I want it to be very subtle, so I think it's enough, but I need to stitch more to really tell. And so what I did was I bought just a skein from the store, and then once I decide for sure that this is what I want, I will buy a hank of it, which should be the perfect amount for this pattern, according to my rough calculations. So, ideally, the hank will not look so different from the skein, and I won't have to like rip out my old stitching, but who knows? I'm just gonna go with it for now. I'm gonna stitch up a bit. I think my goal for whip go is like 10%. I might not hit that just because I don't want to have to tear out 10% of this piece, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And I'm really excited for this. I love this color combo so far. So, cross your fingers that it looks good. And stay tuned for my next video if you want to see how it looks once I've gotten a little bit more of it stitched up. Okay, I feel like I talked about that for a really long time. Those are all of my whips. Let's do January stats. So where is it? There it is. So here's what I worked on in January. I finished Starry Night Cat in the very beginning of the month. That piece was a total of 2,479 stitches. It took me 10 days to stitch, and you already saw the beautiful finish, fully finished. Then I started Yosemite Valley, which I also already showed you. I only worked on that for a few days. And then I did Butterfly 17. These patterns don't have like really specific names, so I don't always know what to call them, but that was this one, this fully finished that I showed you. That took me 21 days, but it was like 4,700 stitches, so that made sense. And I worked on it mostly on the bust, which means typically that I get a little bit less done on it than if I was like working on it for a long period of time on a weekend. Less done in a day, we should say. And then I started mushrooms at night, which I also showed you. So that was my January. In total, I stitched 29 out of 31 days. So 2 no stitchy days and a total of 5,927 stitches, which not the most, not the least. I have been thinking about like what my stitching goals for 2024 are. And I'm not sure, realistically. I mean, I set up my whip go board, so obviously I have those goals. Like big goals include getting like a third of the way done on Anzac, getting another 25% of the way done on Hidden Harbor, and then, you know, more butterflies for my butterfly wall, more mini art patterns for my mini art gallery. Just general things like that. But as a total, like last year I set the goal of I want to stitch 100,000 stitches, and I just like barely made that goal. So I think like roughly that's going to be my goal again this year, which is about 8,300 stitches a month if it's spread out evenly. So I didn't stitch that many stitches this month. I would have like already technically behind if you want to talk about it like that. But that's like loosely my goal, but I'm not that married to it. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so that was my January, and now it's February. So my plans for February are mostly based off of WhipGo. My WhipGo calls for this month, and I'm so sorry I don't have a picture of my board to show you, so I'll just have to tell you. My WhipGo pulls for this month were Anzac, so 10% on Anzac, which is about 3,000 stitches, and also 5% on Hidden Harbor, which I have a picture of the mock-up. This is Hidden Harbor. If you haven't seen it before, it's a Heaven and Earth design that I started last year. I'm already 25% of the way done. My plan is to get to 50% by the end of the year. So it's on my WhipGo board 5 times, 5% each time, which is about 6,000 stitches because this is 135,000 stitches in total. But I'm doing it half stitch with 2 strands on 25 count, so it goes a lot faster. So the funny thing about the WhipGo calls is that they're both like big pieces with a big number of stitches on them, and normally what happens just through pure randomness is that I end up with like one big and one small project to work on from WhipGo. So I was thinking, what am I going to work on the bus this month? Like what's my commute stitching going to be since I have these 2 big pieces? There's absolutely no way I can stitch Hidden Harbor on the bus. It's too big. I do have to finish mushrooms at night, so that'll be my bus project for like the first few days, but it's not going to take me that much longer to finish. So I think I'm going to try for now. We'll see, to work on Anzac on the bus since I just have like this little corner start going. I'm doing it 1/2 on 36 count. Which I think would be fine to do on the bus. I don't know. Normally, if it was a big piece, I just like wouldn't consider doing it on the bus, but since I don't have like that much progress on it yet, and it's like in a not the hugest hoop in the world, I think it's fine. I considered getting like a 6x6 Q snap to start this in, and then I thought, is it really worth it? Do I want to spend the money on that? I don't know. So I might try to take it on the bus for a couple days and see how I like it. If not, I might start a different piece for my bus project for this month. But yeah, those are my plans loosely. All right, what's next? Okay, let's do purchases because yay, I have a little bit of a fabric haul for you. Like I said, I went to Threadneedle Street yesterday. And my big goal was to find the floss for that, which I already showed you, so that's part of the haul. And then to stock up on fabric, because I realized that I do a pretty good job of keeping like black and white fabric, like in my stash so that I can always start pieces that are on those. Like typically I always have 18 count black Aida, 18 count white Aida, and 25 count white Lugana in my stash at all times. But There are a couple patterns that are on my list, but not on my WhipGo board, as like alternates. So like if I finish my WhipGo goals and I don't have other whips I want to work on, these are like pieces I might start. And two of those pieces are, one is they're both Owl Forest embroidery Owl Forest embroidery oh my gosh, patterns. The first one is folk toadstools, which is so cute. I just love it. I've been like really into stitching like patterns with mushrooms in them, which is probably obvious to you by now. So much so that yeah, I've also started collecting like other mushroom things, and people started giving me mushrooms as gifts. So I don't know if you can see, but there's like a tiny carved wooden mushroom on my shelf. It's so cute. Um, I almost want to go grab it for you so I can show you. I bought that at a farmer's market, and then I have this, there we go, this mushroom that I got for Christmas from my dad. It's like made out of an old book, so it's like cut books. I don't know how to explain that better. And then I've got cross-stitching mushrooms. My boyfriend got me a new phone case for Christmas that I desperately needed a new phone case, and it has mushrooms on it. So cute. And then also, I recently went to like a pottery studio to paint pottery and painted a mushroom. I'll talk more about that later. So yeah, it's a theme right now. I thought this was super cute, and of course the other one is also a mushroom pattern from Owl Forest called Fly Agarics. So many mushroom patterns await me in the future. But what you'll notice about both of these is that they are not on white or black fabric. Since there's so much of the important parts of these pieces have white stitching, they wouldn't really look good on white fabric. And I think that like black fabric would be way too harsh for it. It's like more of a prim look, right? So my goal was to build up some stash of like neutral beige and brown tone fabrics that I could use for pieces like this, because I know I have several on my list that wouldn't look good on black or white. So here's what I found. Let me grab my box. Okay. So this is how I store my fabric. It's just an IKEA box. It's big enough for now, but I think I might need another one soon. Okay, so yeah, they're just like stacked up in here, and from like Threadneedle Street kind of packages all of their fabric in little bags, so they're really nicely organized and labeled and all of that. So I got like, you know, some more 25 count Lugana. I got some 32 count white linen. Also a side note, I decided yesterday that I always stitch on 36 count and 18 count, but I should really try 32 count. So I got a few 32 count fabrics to see what those were like. So I got 32 count white linen because there's a pattern that's on my WhipGo board that will be useful for. You'll see it when it gets called. I accidentally stumbled on, gosh, okay, the plastic is ruining it. So let me at least take this one out. I stumbled on this, which you might see a theme. Such a pretty green linen. This is a 32 count linen in the color Laurel. It's so pretty. I had to buy it. I saw it and I was like, I have to buy that. I have no idea what I'm going to use it for. I just decided I needed to have it in my stash. I'm having a green moment right now. Normally I'm in my yellow moment. Like I've been in my yellow moment for about 5 years, maybe. But also green. And then I picked up, these are all 32 counts, so I'm really pushing myself to try this. I got these 3 different tones of neutral brown fabrics, which I love the range here. I've got flax, which I think is pretty popular. I got natural, which I used before for the piece I showed you earlier, Unexpected Visitors. And I like that this is more of a gray toned brown. I'm not sure the colors are coming across super well, but this is the best we're going to do right now. And then I got dirty linen, which is also something that I've seen a lot of people use and heard a lot about. So this is kind of a darker brown. So I think those three will serve me well for some of these patterns that I just like haven't started because I haven't had neutral tone fabrics. And I'm really excited about that. So that's my fabric haul. And I think that is also all of the cross stitching that I have to show you for today. So with that, let's share some details of the giveaway. So, okay, how am I going to do this? I have decided that for my giveaway, I want to give away all 3 of my botany patterns. So this is the botany series. It's a series of patterns that I designed and released last year. And there are 3 patterns, but there's also kind of 6 patterns because there's a black and a white version of each one. Black fabric and white fabric. So I want to give away one of these as a Flosstube anniversary / thank you. Okay, so if you want to enter this giveaway, leave a comment below with the word botany in it. And also, go to the description. There will be a Google form where you can leave me your contact information. If you don't fill out the Google form, and I'll use the YouTube random comment picker to pick a comment, pick the winner. But if that person has not filled out the Google form, I will pick a new winner because I don't want to have to track people down if I don't have their contact information. So the 2 things you need to do to enter are make sure you filled out my Google form with your contact information and leave a comment on this video with the word botany in it. And before my next video, I will draw a winner. That'll probably be about a month from now. So within the next month, if you'd like to enter, please do. And I'm really excited to give away one set of these patterns. The last thing I have to talk about is just a couple life updates. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy has been happening in my life, but I have dabbled in a couple other kind of like crafts. Like I said, I went to a pottery studio with my boyfriend as a kind of like anniversary celebration. And we painted pottery together. We're gonna go pick up the pieces after this, so I don't have them to show you yet, but maybe I'll show you in my next video. So did a little ceramic painting. I also got this diamond painting from my sister. She has like a set of 6 of these kind of like plant diamond paintings, so I've been trying out diamond painting. I've done like the top 2/3, still haven't done the bottom. I will say my review of diamond painting is this is fun, and this is probably the only time I'll ever do it. I definitely like that it's like a little bit faster than cross stitch, and it's kind of fun to place the diamonds and stuff. I don't know. But for me, it's like not a type of art that I would want to hang up or display. I don't like how kind of shiny and flashy it is. So it was like a fun thing to try out, and that's about it. And then the last thing I've been doing is a little DIY project with my friend Ariana, who is a big reader. We've seen several people make basically like teeny tiny little books of all of the books that they read like in a year or whatever. And so we both decided to do this and make, there's not a really good way for me to show you these, make tiny versions of all of the books we've read for the past couple years. And so this is only like maybe about half of the ones that I have that I need to do, but this has been a much bigger project than we thought. Like you have to take all the covers, size them to the right size, print them, cut them out, cut out like it's basically thin foam, and then glue them all together. So it's quite an undertaking, but it's been fun. It's been fun to do it together when we're just like hanging out and watching a show. So that's another craft I've been doing. This is all maybe also to say this is why I haven't stitched as much as I maybe normally do. Yeah, so that's what I've been up to lately. I hope you're having a wonderful start to your new year, and I will see you in March, hopefully. Thanks so much for watching, and have a good February. Bye.